Hello everyone and welcome to the Beam podcast, where we shine a light on the people, ideas and innovations that shape our industry. In today's episode we're going to be talking about something that's now not a nice to have but something that's strategically imperative, and that is the social value of events. As our industry evolves, it's not just about what we deliver but about the impact we create. Social value is redefining how businesses measure success and how you can contribute to something bigger. So how do businesses make this transition from having all this wonderful ideas and thoughts, but actually putting that into something meaningful and embedding that into business practice? And that's something we're going to talk about today. I'm joined by Matt Gray from
Morning.
Event Decision. Morning, Matt. How are you?
Very well, yourself?
Very, very well, thank you. And thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
For some context, I did some research ahead of this and I looked into Event Decision, and I looked at your website and saw the client list and the clientele, and it's very much a who's who of the event industry. So for the purpose of our listeners and viewers, do you want to give us a very brief background on Event Decision and how you represent the social side of events and what you stand for, really?
Of course. So Event Decision is Rising 5, will be 5 this September 2026. Thank you, we've made it, nearly. And we exist for a very simple reason, is to help anyone, anywhere, deliver events more responsibly. So actually we don't examine companies and policies and procedures and accreditations and certifications. We just focus on one simple thing, and that is events.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter where they are, doesn't matter about the scope or what they're trying to do. It's to understand the impact of an event, environmentally, socially, and in governance terms. And as I'm sure we'll talk about, actually those are understood in different ways, in different geographies, by different parts of the event ecosystem, but also not misunderstood, but the understanding is relatively low across the event sector in what they actually mean, and what you can do about them.
And I think, I've got some questions I came up with, but I think before we can get into those, the term ESG and social sits within that, but I think, let's be honest, when everyone talks about it, they automatically go for the environmental side because there's instant tangible returns, and that's where a lot of the heavy lifting happens. I guess you see that.
I'd be a very wealthy man if I had £1 or $1 for every time you start a conversation about ESG, or the term I and we like to use at Event Decision is responsibility.
Yeah.
How well and how responsibly do you deliver your product or service? There is an S in there. In fact, there's a G as well. But the conversations with venues, with agents, with suppliers, with destinations, with associations, and we work with all of them, invariably heads down the carbon rabbit hole.
And I've sat on in rooms, sat on panels where I'll be truthful, looking back, we probably didn't even mention social at all in a whole section that was about ESG.
Absolutely, but there's something we can do something about. Yeah. I mean, carbon, it's been around forever, obviously, but in our world, it's probably been around for 5 to 10 years in any meaningful way, and it's a really great metric. You could compare an apple with a pear with a banana in the same unit of measurement globally, and compare good performance with less good performance. It's got a standard unit, which is the really sexy ton of CO2e, ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, which makes it, for calculations, really useful.
Yeah.
And that's why regulation, which again varies by geography, as we know, the outlook and the appetite in the States is very different to that within the UK and within Europe. But that unit of measurement is not particularly sexy and misses out a huge part of what we would say is responsible delivery.
Yeah.
And events, and to borrow a current song title, I Will Die on This Hill, events are tailor-made to deliver social value.
Yeah.
You've had your hand on the tiller at Bright Vision since COVID. Event Decision has been going since COVID. And it's suddenly become apparent to a lot of players in the event space that what they already do can deliver huge value, but no idea how to measure it, no idea how to report it, and no idea how to shout about it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't. And you're right. There's that with the when we won't labour on this too long, but having the carbon calculator is great because there's something tangible you can say. But actually, social is a lot. Well, I think we're coming to it. It's harder to measure.
Yeah, and sadly we need all of those. The E, the S, and the G.
Yeah.
But for various reasons, the S has certain advantages within events. E cannot be ignored. You really can't. From a regulatory point, from a procurement perspective, from a winning business perspective, you've got to have your finger on that pulse.
Yeah.
But it's called carbon accountancy for a reason. And events aren't necessarily focused on that part of a business.
Absolutely not.
And event professionals potentially don't join the event sector in the first place to just sit in a spreadsheet. I know we all do plenty of it, but we don't always just sit there. It's about engagement and enjoyment and experience and all those wonderful words that you guys are so expert and other BEAM Association members are so expert at delivering. Otherwise, we can go back to the COVID years and just run on numbers and online meetings.
God, no, there's not.
No.
I mean, there was a
definitely,
right, but let's
let's not.
But look, so there's actually something else I wanted that I wrote down here, and it's leading on from this. So we're talking about social value in the context of an event. How does it differ from CSR? Because everyone's got these CSR policies and activities, and I think they probably do get confused. Am I right? Well, certainly for me, I think there's a grey area. So please.
I think there probably is, and it's acronym city. So apologies for that. Before we even get into the carbon and the scopes 1, 2, and 3, and all that. So CSR, I've been in events for 30 years. And CSR as a term has been around for probably as long as that.
Yeah.
Corporate social responsibility. Yeah. And it's probably where venues or event management agencies go to their clients and say, we think you should do a thing, or you've indicated you'd like to do something for the community, for the environment, whether it's to make our audience feel better or for us to generate a good news story for PR. And there's nothing wrong with that. Please do it. But CSR stands for corporate social responsibility. In our view, the corporate responsibility is to return value to its shareholders. If it wants to do this other stuff, great, please do it. So that's CSR. Social value yield, as I said, event decisions coming up for 5. We started also in the carbon sphere. In fact, it's the engine of our business is measuring event carbon. Still doing thousands of events worth every year. But it became apparent really quickly that ESG, or responsible delivery in events, is about more than carbon, as we were just saying. Events are absolutely tailor-made to deliver social value. If you look at London 2012, which generated the ISO, which is now being used all over the world, in the first place, you only have to look at that area of London where the majority of it was delivered to see what value it can bring. Yeah, and that's just in infrastructure, let alone the people and the volunteers and the feel good, which is hard to quantify. But there's so much value generated by us in the UK hosting that event. Same in Paris in 2024. Our contention is you can take that and replicate it. All right, we're not asking you guys in your agency or any of the BEAM membership to rebuild part of a city. But you can absolutely replicate most parts of what those very large global events do on a smaller scale. Yeah. And if you can, why not? And I bet you already do. You just don't know that you're doing it.
And the volume events we churn out, they might be small, but you replicate that. We do hundreds and hundreds of events a year, and there are agents out there do thousands.
Imagine so the value you're already generating just by doing what you already do. And you asked about the difference between CSR, the corporate social responsibility, and social value yield. It's an easy definition, actually. You can remove CSR from an event and still do the event. You can remove the beach clean or the painting the changing room or whatever activity that you've got your folks doing. Yeah. You've still got your meeting or your event. Social value yield is inherent in the infrastructure of the event. It's the people who are hanging the lights and the truss, laying the carpet, putting the chairs out, putting that coffee in front of you in the morning, behind the scenes cooking your vegetarian sausage sandwich or your bacon sarnie. It's the entire infrastructure that actually delivers the event, delivers social values. It's delivering benefit to people. That's social value.
So we're doing it. We're doing a lot of it already. We're just not shouting about it firstly, but actually, I guess it's a case of how can we amplify that?
Very different questions. On the way here, I was reminded of the UK Events report from, I think it was November or December 2025.
Right, yeah.
And it identified, sounds like you know the numbers, it identified quite a big number. £60 billion. I mean, I don't know how many noughts that is, but it's a lot. £60 billion. If only we could attribute a proportion of that to social value. That's the measurement part. Then we need to report it. Then we need to start shouting about it. You know, as an industry, sectors within industries, because venues and agents are perfectly capable of generating social value in their own roles. And then you can start to use it for, call it commercial advantage or winning more business. If you're doing this well, please do more of it. As part of what Event Decision does is support agencies who do this stuff well, shout about it. Because if they're delivering a great product or a great service, why wouldn't we want them to do more of it? Yeah. So, yeah, CSR is a kind of standalone, often activity it's called, isn't it? Within an event that people go off and do something, and that generates some good and lots of good. Yeah. The social value yield of an event is a monetary figure that you can apply as a percentage of the total budget of that event that you can align with social value. And you should do that, and you should start using it to generate interest, to increase that percentage number, and to try and win more business. After all, if you're after public sector business, they ask you for these numbers.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to go rogue now because this is heading down a route. But, so how? Okay, and this I'm going to come from a very potentially naive point, but I'm sure there are people viewing who are going to be similar. So how? And I think it was coming up, but like measuring that. So you're talking about the yield and applying a percentage of an event. So one of my events, how do I start? How do I start to measure this? How can you help me start to understand actually what am I currently doing and applying anyway from the very nature of delivering the event, and how can I, as you mentioned, percentage, how can I increase that percentage? Because I'm sitting here going, I think I'm doing this, but I don't know how to prove it.
Of course. So it's both simple and complex in the same thing, like most things in events. It's really simple in that you can just say a proportion of this budget goes towards social value. And we can list out the different things that you're doing that generate social value. That's the simple bit. Social value of your event is X pounds or X dollars. The more complicated bit is we're not building hospitals here. We're not building bridges that connect different communities. That's much larger and more complex to measure. But what we are delivering is an activity, an event, distinct, short-term, local, generally, the actual delivery part. Yes, people will fly in, but there's debates about the social value of flying. And the environmental piece, of course, different conversation. But we're delivering a short-term intervention somewhere local. And let's say you were to deliver 30 individual pieces of an event. Some of them will have environmental impacts, some of them will deliver social value, and some of them will be related to governance, about your risk assessment, your method statements, your cancellation terms, attrition rates, all those exciting paperworky bits. It's absolutely possible to say, well, of the social factors, which I'm sure you're going to ask me what they might be, and I'm very happy to elaborate, take up this much of your budget. And therefore a proportion, probably not all, but a proportion of that budget can be aligned with social value. Typically that's between 10, overall it's between 10 and 30% of the total event budget. Can be aligned if the event delivers perfectly, there's a few caveats, with social value. So if you're delivering an event as a venue, or as an agent, or a creative, or a production company, or an audiovisual hire company, we can say probably between 10 and 30% of that budget aligns with social value. And then we have an algorithm that we've developed that looks at what you're doing, how much you're doing it, and what you're not doing in the social sphere, and then starts to put a number against that.
Event.
Yeah.
And you can give us a percentage pre-event and then a wash up at the end and say, actually, this is the number after. Is that something that can be done?
Yeah, absolutely. Same as a budget.
So
we all know that at pitch stage, a budget is a little bit a finger in the air for most events companies.
Yeah.
It's a prediction and an upper limit.
Yes, very much an upper limit.
And so we're quite used to the piece at the beginning of the process, perhaps before you've even won, before or at RFP or bid stage, and then the wash up post-event. post-event reconciliation. Been doing it for years.
I'm about to sell your business here, but why aren't we all doing this? Because like it's an obvious one to say to certainly obviously often with the small events, it's probably not a necessity. But for anything required, when you mention an RFP or a tender, you're going to a different sphere of an event typically, and I don't understand why or maybe it is, maybe I just don't see it, but I would have thought this would be standard practice, and hopefully it's becoming more and more. But
the answer is more and more are.
Good.
But I think we talked at the Event Industry News about the keynote talk was called a comfortable lie that we all tell ourselves that we're doing really well. The event sector is brilliant and dynamic and agile and finger on the pulse. But when you look broadly, or in detail rather, not broadly, are we? We are pretty agile. I think that's why the government decided not to kind of protect us specifically in COVID, because we keep being bashed by all these things in our sector, whether it's an ash cloud or a global epidemic and all the economic stuff in between. And we're resilient. We are sustainable as a sector. We're resilient. We keep coming back, shrinking, growing, but enough growth to sustain a really vibrant, generally healthy industry. I think when you look at cars, there's cars on the street outside this studio. It took the Western world as we know it now 60 years to adopt cars as a method of transport. It took even mobile phones. How much do we all love our phones? 10, 15, 20 years to become as commonplace as they are now. It's taken AI, very, very short time indeed, to become almost the go-to for lots of parts of different businesses. We're really at the early stages of social value in events, except for the very notable global, the Olympics, which are allegedly actually allocated to destinations and countries on the back of some of this stuff.
Wow.
I'm sure there's lots of different parts. Yeah, huge part of the tender, more so we're led to believe than almost any other. But why agency and venue-led and corporate events has been slow to this stage, I guess the truth must be that we've had other priorities.
I think you're right. We're hardly sitting on lots of free time here, are we? So you're just trying to get off and deliver the events to a high standard, then kind of sounds awful, isn't it? But move on to the next one. And that's probably the reality of the world. My agency operates in, we do a lot of events.
Yeah, and at the Event Industry News, it was a sustainability breakfast at BMA House about a month ago. We ran. It was great fun. We ran a hackathon.
Oh, nice.
Again, it's a concept that's been done in the tech business for years and years. I used to run them years ago for Google and the likes to solve an intractable problem, put the experts in the room, make it a competition, and say go. Yeah. So we did this for 100 event professionals. And went, here's your intractable problem, and it's one that event organisers face every single day. We created a company that wanted to launch an accessible finance product globally, and said, your task is to create this global launch, but you've got to take into account the CEO and their wishes about big and glitz and glam and look at us, as well as the E and the S and the G. And I guess this is a problem that your clients, our clients, will have every day. Yeah. They want this great, big, amazing thing, and you can't tick all the boxes all the way through. There are some compromises that need to be made. So we split the bigger group into teams and said, here are 6 decisions you need to make around commerciality, around accessibility, around PR, around how the media are going to treat this event, and then the delivery stuff, all the operations bits that we all do for a living. And each one has consequences. Choose A, B, C, D. The only question that absolutely everyone agreed on, surprisingly actually, and you can see the results on the Event Decision blog website, but the only decision that everybody made the same was around social value. So not only was it the first time we've run a hackathon, it was the first time we put social value in one of the decision making matrix, and we gave people 3 options. Don't measure it. I think that's 4 options actually. 4 options. Don't measure it. Really light touch estimate. third-party audited but quick turnaround so that you can align it with post-event press, or full-on, really in-depth, 3-month-long process with associated costs. And every single team went for the third option. Let's do something that is third-party, that can be audited if needs be. It might not be to the individual cent or penny, but it gives our clients and the press a really good indication of the value of that event in social, rather than spending 3 months doing a really long piece of work, because events are transient. Once the news cycle's gone, it's gone. Yeah. So 3 months later, we delivered X, Y, and Z. Isn't going to have as much traction.
Do you think, I'm not even looked at a single of the pre-pro questions. It's really
That's fine, we can carry on.
Do you think, so how people, and just like kind of thinking of the environmental side, we've got net zero, and you have this target.
Yes.
And there are rules, laws, legalities about all of these things. At the moment, my understanding is social doesn't have a target as such, but do you think it's going to come to a point where government are pushing something tangible to go at, whether it be a time frame or almost, I guess, rules that we have to abide by? So, am I right in thinking at the moment there is nothing being driven from a higher power type thing?
Very good question. In the public sector, there already is. So Social Value Act denotes a percentage of social value you should generate within the contract, whatever you're delivering for the government. Wow. It's been around like that for a while. Okay. In the corporate sector or private sector, I don't think there will. I think it'll be up to individual. Well, how much can any government dictate what the private sector does? Yes, there's rules and regs around tax and governance, but in terms of the value you should generate, I think that's for individual brands. Yeah. Whether you're a Deloitte and a PwC and up there in the consulting world, or you're a much smaller organisation, or you're like yourselves.
Yeah. Do you think, following on, do you think we'll get to a point where actually it is just, so many people have adopted it, it's almost frowned upon if you're not? Do you think that's where the route will eventually get to, which I guess is the end goal?
I hope so.
We all want to, yeah.
Yeah. Because events are just a wonderful vehicle for delivering social value. It takes people to deliver an event, and the event can generates value for those people. So the more events we hold, or the better we are extracting social value from each one, is a win-win.
Yeah. And you mentioned a little bit earlier, so I'm going to go to a question about social value, because we mentioned it, but also, layman terms, we've got an event. What are you measuring? What's adding to the social value? What are the little bits that are making up this 10 to 30%?
Without going down the huge acronym of DE&I, and some of those are operational, so diversity, equity and inclusion, a lot of that's operational, around how do people access the information, how do people on site access the information. This is what I'm sure you guys are expert at, that the host organisation's throwing at them.
Yes.
Being the whole point of an event, get information from point A to point B to change your behaviour or sell more stuff. That's one thing. But you can measure the social value in terms of the food and beverage as well as you can the carbon footprint of associated F&B, in terms of is it local? Is it being supplied by independent companies? It's not always possible. Yeah. With scale become larger procurement contracts. Is the audiovisual company local? Is the team building company local? You're trying to generate and understand how much value to that event is generating in the local area. A lot of it's about locality. Living wage. There are mechanisms out there, Bector and so forth, that you can join and say, we will pay our people, whether they are full-time employees, contractors or freelance, a living wage as defined by that organisation. But why do more people not report that they do? That person that served you your cup of coffee here today, what was it, 40 minutes ago, are they on a living wage? Now, that's an unfair question in this scenario, but if we were on an event and you've got 50 waiting staff or 30 AV crew who have been up all night, are they actually on a living wage? And when you go out and promise that you deliver a responsible, sustainable product or service to your clients, and it's all over your website, our values, we live our values, they're our number one priority, have you got anything to actually back that up?
No.
But if it's all there, and you can start to generate, just by doing what you do, and potentially partnering with someone like Event Decision, you can start to say 88% of the food on this event was sourced locally. 75%, well, let's make this one higher, 95% of our crew across the year were paid a living wage for every hour that they worked for us. There's so many different statistics that you can bring to the fore and shout about, whether you're winning business or looking to renew an account or strategic review, to say, actually, it's important to you, client, that you have a responsible supply chain.
Yes.
We are part of that. Here's the evidence.
And that's exactly what you do at Event Decision.
In this, yes, absolutely.
That metric, because often when I've got a big project, a big event, I know it's going to sound horrible, but I'll just, it's another thing for me to do. But actually, if I can bring in an organisation like yourselves and say, here's the details, you would do a lot of the heavy lifting with getting the information and then reporting back.
Yeah, and the wonderful news is it need not be actually particularly heavy lifting. We're doing the social value yield at scale now, and on average it takes 7 to 9 minutes per project.
Wow.
7 to 9 minutes per project.
Nothing,
so not that 3-month, 100-page reports.
Yeah.
But then you can start to generate information to pass to your client on individual projects, but also aggregate it into your organisation.
I'm changing my RFP. My tender documents are getting changed.
I was with an incentive house in the Milton Keynes area, with whom we're NDA'd. So
don't worry.
Those of you in the know will know who these people are. They've run 3 events in the last 3 weeks. Those 3 events have generated £425,000 of social value that they had no idea about, and is absolutely in their RFPs now. So they're aggregating their social value that they generate. Don't forget, no mention of painting changing rooms or cleaning out or AP gardens or any of that stuff, which is all great. This is completely different. This is infrastructure, what you generate just by doing what you do. And of course you can do more of it.
Yeah.
Of course you can. But stage 1, I think, is understanding that we do this brilliantly in events. Stage 2, you could measure it and report it. You can benefit from measuring and reporting it. And stage 5, let's all do more of it. It doesn't necessarily, and often doesn't, cost any money at all.
No, so this is why I'm smiling with my Bright Vision hat on the commercialities of how I actually think this can generate more business for us selfishly. So I can really, I didn't walk into this room thinking this would head this way, but I'm learning, and it's great. I think this, and the fact we're doing it, we're just literally not recording it.
Yeah. And
not shouting about it.
Everyone can do it to some extent. So I know the Beam Association membership is a large portion of venues.
Yeah.
Some venues will be more adaptable to doing this than others. So if you're a bed bank on a motorway and you're full of travelling salespeople, the interest in this stuff is fairly negligible. At the other end of the scale, I'll give a shout out to someone like Exclusive Collection, who are B Corp and who are brilliant at engaging local community. All their staff are local. 90-something% of their suppliers are local, and they do generate significant amounts of social value by hosting events for other people. And they're learning to shout about it. So venues, yes. Agencies, of course, because you build the event. You're in control of so many different factors. Is it always the easiest path? I would say no. To find local crew, to find a local supplier. And there's an argument, let's say you're doing an event in Cannes, is coming up, the Cannes Festival. There's a couple of UK agencies that deliver multiple projects for some very big brands there. France has a really good supply chain for most of this stuff. Please, let's use them. But I know we'll still be seeing suppliers from the UK trucking out kit and people to deliver some of these. And that's understandable in some cases because they're in control of the project. They've been with it since the beginning. But when you start looking at equipment, some specialist stuff aside, granted, we'll still be seeing trucks going from different parts of the UK to the south of France full of audio and visual kit.
My company does it.
Because you trust your supplier. So is it always the easiest to do? No. But can there be really significant advantage, commercial, PR, humanity, from actually trying to do things just that little bit better? And that's why Event Decision exists, just to deliver everything a little bit better. Yes, there are.
So this is actually a good follow-on. So lots of people hear the term social value and they might feel slightly uneasy about what actually is behind it. But what are these like really simple? We've crossed. What are some of these really simple everyday decisions that we're already doing that mean we're down that track already?
I think the needle on most things wobbles around a bit, not just events and not just social and social value. For a lot of people, the needle around responsible buying has moved significantly. So I don't know. Let's try this pen. Yeah. You know, that's the old interview question, isn't it? Sell me this pen, please. You know, in the past, and this still happens, of course. You know, you buy the cheapest pen possible and get it there as quickly as you possibly can. Nowadays, you might, and actually, there's no moral reason why you have to, but you might just care a little bit about how and where it's made.
Yeah.
Substitute pen for audiovisual kit or crew or carpet. Carpet's always a big topic of discussion in Expo. And there are some solutions out there. Carpet or where you get your people. It's a pause because I've lost my train of thought. What was your question?
It was about if you're feeling slightly uneasy about how do you make those everyday decisions to get the process started, really.
Yeah, you're probably not doing too bad a job already. A lot of this stuff in carbon and E, in social and S, and to some extent G as well, are rooted in commerciality. Why send 3 trucks when 2 will carry it? Nobody does that. Why fly a crew member from New York to Paris when there's people in Paris or at worst in London? So you know, if you're following a basic commercial model that's going to deliver some value / profit to your company, and let's hope you're doing that, otherwise you're really not sustainable in the real sense of the word, then you know you're already making probably good decisions, and it's just the next stage on each of those.
Yeah. And I think it's the recording and then the screaming after that we're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the delight, clients are not going to ask for this. Private sector clients are probably not going to ask for this yet. It's not on their radar. The events teams in London and Birmingham and Edinburgh and Paris and Cape Town and wherever they are frantically juggling vendors and their contracts and their internal stakeholders, and we all know how much fun that can be, that actually they probably, could you also quantify the social value yield? I don't think a lot of them are there yet. And that's not a criticism. It's just where the sector is, and potentially the world is. They might ask you for the carbon footprint of your slice of that event, or of the whole event, if that is your scope. And there's tools and people, we're one of them, that can do that for you. That's pretty easy nowadays. The fact that they can don't yet say, Can you quantify the social value yield
I've never been asked.
Of my 1.2 million euros that I'm spending with you guys? No, they're not going to ask for that. Turn that round and see that as a benefit. If you provide that for them anyway, wow, does that put you in a good position in terms of the value that you add, but also your stickiness with that client?
Yeah, see, this is a change of mindset for me. And so I have been asked for a carbon footprint for an event. I've never been asked for our social. There we are. So it just reinforces everything you said.
Let's hope that they do. Because the more we talk about it and the more people report it, it will become a more accepted metric.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will ask me at the end what an agency or a venue of the future looks like. And I'll tell you then, but it's along those lines. It can be done.
Yeah. So we're already doing some of this. So if someone's listening, wants to start something on Monday morning.
Yep.
I was going to use the word quick wins, but I don't quite mean it. But how do they literally start? Because the moment you get these things, my experience of things is when you take the first few steps, actually you get into a bit of a momentum and it starts to become a lot easier. So Monday morning comes, someone's really listened to this, they're like really on board with this. What's the first few steps?
Firstly, don't worry if you don't have a huge budget for this stuff. Very few people do, because very few people are actually doing it. So you can't just magic budget out of nowhere. And by budget, I mean time. So some people are already doing this. Some of the larger venues or groups or arena-style spaces, we talked earlier before this podcast about Manchester to some extent Liverpool as well. They have their brochure around what they can deliver in terms of the space is this big. We have these services and functions available to you. Our preferred catering and florist and AV lists are blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can apply to the train companies for all those wonderful things. And they have a separate social prospectus. If you want to deliver some value to our city while you're here, you may wish to engage with some of these companies who could be social enterprises or charities, but some of whom are actually event companies as well, or parts of. London has a wonderful crewing company that does exactly that, brings people into our industry through the mechanism of pushing flight cases who have been at risk or experienced homelessness. They take all the risk. They report to you how many hours of social value, and that's the events industry working for real good, not just corporate gain or our own gain. But on Monday, just see if you have a living wage policy if you're a venue across, your core staff. Of course you do, because they're probably salaried, but across your casual staff. Are you signed up to anything that ensures you pay them fairly? Yeah. That's a fairly easy one. Do you have, when you're doing show rounds and your clients say, or do you have an audiovisual company, chances are they'll be local.
Yeah.
But it may as well be worth checking, because they're not all local. Skills development. You as a company, I won't throw you under the bus here, so I'll ask an open question. When you go on site to deliver an event and you've got a relatively large crew for you, however many people that is, do you even think about making sure that on each gig that you deliver, of course you've got experienced senior crew, leading each section and at the head of the event. Of course you have. That's risk management. Do you try and get your apprentices or junior members of staff on these with specific remit to watch and learn both ways in terms of skills development, which is a separate thing you should be doing anyway? Yeah. That is actually social value as well, because it's moving skills around and pushing them along the chain for the next generation. It's probably no accident that Fast Forward 15 and Elevate and the mentoring have been so popular in the last few years. I was at the Elevate launch this month just gone. There's 900 people that went.
It's mad.
I mean, brilliant. And all those things. So on Monday, you can go in and you can check your living wage status. You can see if you've got preferred suppliers, if they are local. Commercially, they probably should be anyway. And you can just see how do we even record? Not asking you to change the way that you do it, but is it even a decision that comes onto the radar for large events if you're a venue, or for if you're an agent or a supplier? You can report the fact that, hey client, because you're holding your event with us here, or we're delivering parts of it for you, you are supporting a skills development program. It's this whole
a different angle, isn't it?
That we're missing, and it's all positive. So I'll make these numbers up, but the conversation often goes, we're great. We've delivered this project at 1.2% less carbon than last year. I mean, that's good, right? Yeah. Is it? It is. Factually, it's great. It's not exciting. If you turn around and said, hey, client, we delivered this event for you. You have some ROI stuff around engagement and selling more stuff, or your sales team learning stuff. But also, you helped 3 junior members of staff and an apprentice learn new skills. And we delivered 95% of the event there with local vendors, etc. Yeah. The food and the beverage was all sourced from farms within 50 kilometres of the venue, and it typically included Farmer Giles or this company here, or the petit fours that you had afterwards were delivered by a social enterprise that helps people that need that help. You're not actually doing anything different necessarily. You're just pointing out that you're doing things really well.
Yeah.
And so those are the Monday things: so living wage, local suppliers, and skills development. And the list of things you can do is as long as the arm that you're looking at there, but those are 3 relatively simple ones, and you don't need big complex systems to do them. And don't necessarily do them on every single event that you do. If you're a venue, you're probably hosting hundreds and hundreds. And you haven't got the time within your ops role or your sales role or your marketing role to do this on every event. Pick the ones that matter. Pick, however you define that, by delegate numbers, by revenue, you'll know what your business profile looks like. You'll know what yours looks like as an agency. I guarantee within 10 seconds, if I said, what's your event profile look like? And it'll be, I've had a good number of small ones and then a couple of medium ones and then some enormous ones. And the curve will be that way. And you can decide pretty quickly, we're not going to worry about those ones yet. We're going to look at the ones that actually move the dial. Yeah. And that's events A, B, C, D, and E to start with. And you'll get an idea and you'll get the hang of using the positive language with clients, rather than necessarily, yes, we've changed these light bulbs to LED ones. And there are some brilliant things out there in terms of carbon. Why Boston does their, with the room cleaning and planting a tree instead of, and actually how many of us do mind whether the room is cleaned every single day and the towels are changed every single day? I know I don't, but I can only talk for myself. So it's a real positive outlook.
So that Monday morning, there's some really easy wins, aren't there? And you mentioned about there's a whole long arm of bringing someone like yourself. If you're feeling overwhelmed or business out a life event decision, who can assist with those?
Yeah, and I'm always happy to talk things through with venue operators, sales and marketing experts, or with agencies. My background is events, so I understand the event product. Don't forget, we are just looking at the product, which is where, again, events, I think, are missing a trick. Yeah. I was going to say we're very good. We're okay at accreditations. In the ESG and responsibility world, there's lots of them. You can B Corp at EcoVadis or CDP or SBTI. I told you it's acronym city. Anyone that can write all of those out longhand, well done. So we're very good at that stuff and the number crunching behind that. And those really are all inputs. Hey, client, we've got a system. Somebody's come in, given us a badge. We've worked really hard, and deservedly so, and we've got this badge that says we deliver something at this level. Client comes along and really doesn't have a lot of evidence that they're receiving that. So this is from a sales perspective, from event decisions, where we differ from everyone else, is that we're actually not looking at your company. Whatever happens there, that's great and that's for you, and we'd thoroughly encourage you to accredit yourselves to whatever is right for you, agency or venue. There's different accreditation schemes. All event decision does is in the name. We look at the event, the product, which is usually the sum of a large number of vendors under the control of the corporate or the agency or the association for the expo side, bringing them all together, and they're often different every time, to go, if this is the product, how good is that to the owner? To the buyer of that product, which is very different to going, well, this supplier's got this accreditation and this supplier's got that accreditation. And I'm not knocking those. Accreditations are a very big and valuable business. But actually, nobody really looks at what they all come together to deliver. And that is a recipe for cracks and things to fall through them. And there's no blame associated with any of that. It's just the way events has always been. But as somebody, and I don't know who, every salesperson in the world probably says, if you always do what you always do, you'll always get what you always get. Yeah. So it's a very different mindset shift away from sustainability and E and carbon, which is valuable, and you still have to do it. And we'll come to that when you ask me about the future. Yeah. To actually leaning on what events do brilliantly, which is deliver positive outcomes for humans.
It's all about engagement. I say it all the time in the office. We are the masters of engagement with the audience.
And we don't measure the thing that has the most.
So look, you've teamed me up twice now. I'm going to ask you then.
I'm wondering what for.
So let's find this then. So let's look ahead. A few years from now, we've got a procurement conversation with corporate clients, agencies and venues, and what does the agency or venue of the future look like?
I couldn't have guessed that one was coming. I think to be able to report the carbon impact of your actions whether you're the venue or the venue finding agent even. That'll be minimal, but in events agency, production, technical production, AV supply, and all the other plethora of suppliers will be, as the Americans call it now, table stakes. You're not going to get through, you won't be on the shortlist unless you're able to, and it won't be complicated. Calculating carbon is getting easier and easier, and there's certain developments. I've got to say the word AI here. We use AI. It's really just what and who has moved, how and where and for how long. And AI is very well suited to analysing data and spitting something out. Is it there yet? Completely easy, press a button and it does it? No. But will the carbon piece get easier and easier for agencies and venues? Yes, it will. In terms of social value, I genuinely hope, as Matt, as a human, that we get much better at this stuff. Not as a event decision, but we as an industry in the sector get better at shouting about what we do pretty well already and could do brilliantly. When we put our minds to it, and the event owners, think International Olympic Committee, or LOCOG, the London Organising Committee of the Olympic Games, and Lord Sebastian Coe, when people in those positions, or relative to the size of your event and your audience, push the button and say, we want this to generate some good as well. You're already doing it.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple to learn how to, it's a question of ticking some boxes on a platform, and it takes maybe 10 minutes per project to start going, yes, we can quantify that. Will that make it into the mainstream? We hope so. Because it's a really valuable part of the event sector. We talked at the beginning about this 60 odd billion.
Yeah.
And we talked after that of the 10 to 30% of many events that you can defensively and arguably say can be aligned with social value. And then let's take the median value of that, 20%. That's £12 billion. That is being delivered, we're already doing.
Yeah.
And we're not shouting about it, and we're not using it in all the different ways, one of which is commercial, which we could, and I believe we should.
Commercialising everything will just change the game in terms of tendering, prospecting, shouting about.
It's the way our industry's built, isn't it? Bid, tender.
We're in this game for making money, let's be honest, and social is such a big part of that we are just not screaming about.
Yeah, we talked at Event Industry News about, one of the section headers that I used was the age of altruism is dead. When we came out of COVID and live events were back with a bang, as you illustrated with your own company, and we all got hit by the resource crunch, not enough people, there's never enough budget, is there? Let's face it, never enough. But we saw a large number of UK agencies, event management agencies, leading with planetary, environmental, we're here to save the planet one event at a time. And for whatever reason, we've seen those words, that type of sentiment die down a bit, and the commercial argument for we'd like to deliver your event, we're a fantastic venue, here's how we manage our carbon, and here's how we engage with the local community and develop social value, that increasing. And that's not a surprise. So, as I said, at the Event Industry News session, we talked about the age of altruism. In fact, I said the age of altruism is dead. It's not, of course. We're a wonderful community in this country, and we do a huge amount for other people. But actually, in terms of companies delivering service and product, if you don't align what you do to commercial outcomes for your company, you're not a great company, you're more of a charity. So if your job is to generate a return and a profit for the shareholders of that company, and that is the point of a company, why on earth aren't we aligning social value yield that we're already doing, that we could do more of, with trying to do more of it? And I'll say till I'm blue in the face, if you do this well, it'd be great if you did more of it, because you've learned how to shout about it, and the outcomes are wonderful on both sides.
That's absolutely brilliant. I've learned a lot today. I've really been looking forward to this chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to see us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you
Brilliant.
for the invite.
Thanks, Matt. Brilliant. So look, everyone, that is the end of another Beam podcast. I think my big takeaway is that social value isn't just a standalone principle here. It's a real change in mindset. We need to be embedding this in every decision, every process, every experience we deliver for our clients. At Beam, we've always pushed hard on ethics, values and innovation, and we will continue to champion the social side of our industry. As we've talked about, we're doing a lot of it already. Let's scream and shout about it. If you have enjoyed this episode, there's many, many more on the Beam YouTube channel. We also have a Spotify if you want to listen for the audio only. So please do take a look. But until next time, I've been Ben Hull. Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon.